Hi guys, welcome back in. Here's Goldie. She wanted to say hi too. Hi, Whitby. Hope you guys are doing good tonight. Um, we're gonna talk talk about something a little different today. So let's just go ahead and dive in. There's this thing we all do, even as adults. We look towards certain people as if they hold a lantern in a dark room. Not because they're perfect, not because they're famous, but because something in the way they move through the world feels like a clue. A center voice, a person who doesn't just entertain us, but steadies us. Someone whose presence feels like a reminder of how to stay human in a world that keeps trying to pull us in different directions. And for me, and for a lot of other people, one of those voices is Pink. Not the pop star, not the performer hanging from silks 30 feet in the air or flinging herself across stadiums across the world, but the woman underneath all of that. The one who has spent 2 decades telling the truth without turning it into a spectacle. The one who has stayed grounded without shrinking. The one who has grown in public without pretending she's above the mess of being human. Today I want to talk about Pink as a celebrity center voice, what that means, why it matters, and how someone in the public eye can model a kind of emotional clarity that feels rare, steady, and deeply human. Welcome back to the space between. Before we begin, I want to ground us off with something simple. This isn't a fangirl episode. We aren't going to talk about her accolades and achievements on a sales or musical level. It's not about idolizing anyone or putting a celebrity on a pedestal. It's about noticing the people, famous or not, who help us find our center. The ones who remind us of who we are. The ones who show us what it looks like to stay rooted in your truth without losing your softness. So, as you listen, I invite you to stay open, stay curious, and let yourself consider who your own center voices might be. One of the reasons Pink stands out as a center voice is her relationship with honesty. She doesn't weaponize it, she doesn't perform it, she doesn't use it to shock or provoke. She uses it to connect. From the beginning of her career, she's been willing to say the quiet part out loud about body image, about relationships, about motherhood, aging, about the music industry, and about herself. But she does it with a kind of groundedness that feels rare. It's not, look at me being raw, it's, I'm a human being and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Her honesty isn't loud, it's steady, it's rooted, it's the kind of truth that doesn't need to shout because it's not trying to convince anyone. It's just naming what's real. And that's what makes her a center voice. She models a kind of emotional clarity that says you can be messy and still be whole, you can be vulnerable and still be strong, you can be honest without being harsh. Pink has always had this rebel energy, but it's not rebellion for rebellion's sake. Maybe it was when she was younger, but certainly not now. Now it's rebellion with roots. She pushes back against expectations, but she does it with intention. She challenges norm, but she does it with heart. She stands her ground, but she does it without losing her humility. There's a difference between being defiant and being anchored. Pink is anchored. She's the kind of person who can say, I'm not doing that, or that doesn't feel true to me, or I'm choosing differently. And it doesn't feel like a fight, it feels like a boundary. And boundaries are a form of centering. She shows us that you can be bold without being cruel. You can be outspoken without being reckless. You can be powerful without performing power. That's a center voice. Maybe one of the most compelling things about Pink is that she grows in public, not in a curated look at my evolution way, but in a real human, sometimes messy way. She apologizes, she reflects, she changes her mind. She learns out loud, and that's rare. Most public figures either hide their growth or package it into a brand. Pink just grows. She lets us see the in between, the contradictions, the softness, the strength, the becoming. And that's what makes her a center voice. She reminds us that growth isn't linear and it isn't shameful. It's just what we should all be doing. I think every celebrity has a moment where their center becomes visible. For Pink, one of those moments was her performance of What About Us with her daughter at the Democratic National Convention. Not because of the politics, not because of the stage, but because of the symbolism. A mother standing beside her child singing a song about being unheard, unseen, unprotected, and doing it with a kind of emotional clarity that didn't feel performative. Standing in front of politicians and donors and asking pointedly, "What about us?" It wasn't a salute to one party over another, but a call for leadership that listens and asks for our leaders to be better. It felt like a woman using her voice in a way that aligned with her values. Not loud, not divisive, just honest. It was a moment that said, "I'm here, I'm grounded, I'm using my voice with intention." Years before that, years before she stood beside her daughter at the DNC, Pink stood beside the Indigo Girls and sang "Dear Mr. President." It wasn't anger, it was ache. A harmony that asked, "Do you ever stop to see the people that you lead?" That's the same question she's asking now, only now she's teaching her child how to ask it too. That's a center voice. As we close today, I keep coming back to this idea. A center voice isn't someone who tells you what to think, it's someone who reminds you how to return to yourself. For me, Pink does that. Not because she's perfect, not because she's polished, but because she's real. She shows us that you can be strong and soft, bold and grounded, honest and kind, messy and whole. And maybe that's why she resonates so deeply, because she gives me and so many others permission to be all of those things too. So today, I invite you to think about your own center voice, the people who steady you, the ones who remind you who you are, the ones who help you find your way back to your center when the world gets loud. And maybe, just maybe, you're becoming that voice for someone else. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was just a little reflective. Pink is one of my go-to examples of a pretty solid human being, and I thought I would share why I think that with you. Anyway, until next time, guys, stay present, stay grounded, and take care of yourself, okay?